And I worked on One Day at a Time, Facts of Life, Silver
Oh.
Spoons, pretty much all of them. But Leo was my first like start. And then Hilary Swank came there afterwards. And it kind of just rolled into, I had a really good stable of great clients and Selma Blair. And, you know, things just kept rolling.
I mean, you kind of struck gold right off.
I did.
Yeah.
Toby obviously was part of the clan.
They were like thick as steel
I
always.
couldn't get them apart. Are you
no,
kidding? I remember looking out the window and calling and saying, get your ass out of bed.
Yeah.
I can see your cars in the front of Toby's house.
You've had some other really big clients.
Yeah, I did.
And in fact,
I did. From Zac Efron,
Hilary Swank,
Cole and Dylan Sprout,
but-
Corbin Blue. Represented Chad Michael Murray. I love.
and there's a Hilary Swank thing, and she's getting an award or being honored, and she says, I owe my whole career, the person who believed in me from day one is Bonnie Liedtke.
Hello and welcome to this episode of 90who10. I am Jessica Entner.
And I'm Dan Eisenstein.
And today we have Chicago-born idol maker, star finder, agent to every young child actor you may have seen grace the stage, Bonnie Liedtke.
Thank you.
Good job.
We're so excited to have you. And I have to tell you, when you came in, I feel like I already knew you because your name has come up quite often on and off camera in this room.
Yeah.
One of your dear friends was one of our guests, John Homa. So starting with, you know, how you ended up in Hollywood, you clearly are in the entertainment industry. You are a big agent and manager. But let's start at the beginning, Bonnie.
Oh, dear God.
We've
I'm gonna
already
put
heard
you all
dating
to
story
sleep now, right?
No. But you grew up in Chicago. What brought you out here?
Aunt and uncle who lived next door to the president of Universal. And that was the intro into entertainment. But I honestly worked up at the tour.
Mhm.
It wasn't like some fancy
Right.
thing. It was being at the tour, which I loved, which was the highlight when the pink and white trams and the,
Yeah.
you know.
I can see you
back in the
doing
day.
a good
Is this like the
tour. I
80s?
mean, yeah.
Yeah, it was the 80s.
I have a great story for you. Do you know who Nancy Dockery is?
Why do I know that?
She
name?
was the first female president of Universal Television.
Okay.
And she was good friends with my parents. And I was a little kid, right? And you're gonna like this story. and I was a little kid, and she used to always say to me, "Danny, come visit me at come, I'll get you on the tour. Come visit me. Come visit me." You know, she's a sweetheart, great lady. And so I'm with my cousins who are visiting from Paris. And I'm like, let's go to Universal. We can get it on the tour. I'm like 12 years old. I'll get us on the tour. And I literally
know a
walk
guy.
up to the ticket booth,
Yeah.
right? And the lady in the ticket booth, is like, working probably minimum wage. And I'm like, call Nancy Dockery up in the towers. We're going on the tour.
Oh, my
This is the best story.
Yeah.
And you did it.
And we did. Yeah, we did. We did.
Like, how did it end?
Yeah,
Did you
yeah,
make
yeah.
it?
They did. I mean, today they probably wouldn't even get them to pick up the phone.
Wow.
Oh, my
But yeah,
God.
yeah. I had enough
Clout.
belief in myself. And they picked up the phone. They called her office.
But I love
Probably
that
pulled her
you're
out of a
using that
meeting.
kind of clout
Yeah,
at the age of 11.
11,
like,
12,
I
yeah,
know the
yeah,
person.
yeah.
Call
We're
the
going
person in the
yeah,
tower.
That's
yeah,
amazing.
That is very funny.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's great.
But yeah, so nutshell, I worked at Universal and I met Sherman Hemsley. If you
Oh,
know
yeah,
George
George Jefferson.
Yes.
who heard me, I was on the microphone and asked one of his friends to come over and talk to me and see if I'd be interested in working on the Jeffersons as a page.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
didn't really know what it meant, but I knew that working down on the lot in, one of the stages was you've arrived.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was the first show I started working on was Jeffersons. And then I worked on One Day at a Time, Facts of Life, Silver Spoons, pretty much all of them, different
Yeah.
strokes. Every
And what
one
were
of
you
them.
doing on each one of them?
Page.
Okay.
I would either
What does that
be
entail for the people that don't know?
seating people, regular people from,
Oh,
Wisconsin, Oklahoma,
So live
Idaho.
audience.
Yeah,
Live audience.
live audience.
Okay.
Or it could be on off-tape days, you were basically answering phones.
Got it.
So let's say Eddie Van Halen called for Valerie Bertinelli. It
Yeah.
would be like, hey, I have, because you took paper messages
Sure,
back
yeah,
then,
yeah.
and then you would deliver messages to
The
people.
carbon copied
Yeah,
ones.
isn't that crazy?
Oh,
We
fuck
had a
yeah, I
carbon
remember
copy
those.
book.
That was such a big deal when he was dating her when she was on One
Oh,
Day.
Oh,
such,
yeah.
and I was in
We're
the
like,
heat
yeah,
of it.
yeah.
And Michael Jackson was doing the Thriller, and
yeah.
all that. It
Yeah.
was just that lot was a buzz. It was so much fun.
It's
Yeah.
not the same right now.
Yeah, no,
right?
it's so different.
We'll
Yeah.
get to that point
Yeah.
later.
It's so different. And I met agents who,
Okay.
at the time, managers were really kind of almost nil or
Yeah.
unheard of. But I met two agents that were William Morse agents, and Steve Glick and Flo Allen. Flo has since passed away, but Steve is very much alive and doing well. And they told me I'd make a great agent. And I thought, what's that?
Yeah.
You know, I want to do that because I
Yeah.
actually thought I wanted to be a publicist because I just thought that was the glamorous
I
lifestyle.
could see you doing that.
Yeah. And I thought that was what I wanted to do. And I tried that, didn't work. I interned for like a month and was like, no, thank you. And then I went and interned at an agency and then kind of rolled right into, I had so much fun.
Yeah.
I worked in a lot in commercials because back then commercials were really driven by big celebrities.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I don't want to really date myself, but I will. It was like Mark Harmon for Coors Beer.
Right, yeah.
Merrick
Oh, my
Hartley
God.
for Tetley Teas.
Uh-huh.
So it was kind of working with a lot of people with big, big star names, kind of classic names back in the day and doing brand deals. And it was great. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
I loved it. Loved it. And then one thing led to another. I met a dance agent who was coming over to the company I was at, and they asked me if I could help her because she didn't know what she was doing. And I did. And she went on to be a great dance agent. And then I decided I would commit to being an agent. I was definitely agent material and knew that that's what I wanted to do.
How old were you when you kind of?
About 22, 23. Yeah,
That's
I started.
early.
It was
Yeah.
really early.
I mean, that's
was
not
early.
like you did.
Yeah.
That's a very quick but lovely
really
entry.
quick. I did not go to college, so that had a
Most
lot
of
to
the
do
great
with it
ones
because
didn't.
most of my colleagues were already thinking law
Yeah.
degrees and
Yeah.
so forth. And truthfully, I was lying and saying I was currently enrolled in college, but really I was not.
And from there, you went to Harry Gold?
Early on, I went to Harry Gold. I was at a company, David Shapiro and Associates.
Okay.
And then, which they had Sybil Shepherd on Moonlighting.
Oh,
I mean,
God, that
really
was-
some of the big, I
Yep.
mean, I look back and think, wow, it was some of the biggest stars, television names ever.
Yeah. Well, that
And-
was also when
yeah.
TV and movies were separate stars.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
We had some
It
of
was
the
very
biggest in the
different,
world. I mean,
yeah.
it was just amazing.
Yeah.
We were in the Sherman Oaks Galleria. It was just awesome.
Yeah.
And then I went to Harry Gold and Associates next to Jerry's Deli on Ventura Boulevard. If you remember,
And his daughters were Tracy and
Gold.
Missy Gold. They were
Brandy
Benson.
Gold, all of them.
Benson.
Family Ti-
Family. Facts of Life. No,
No, Growing Pains.
Growing Pains.
Growing
I'm
Pains,
like,
yeah,
what
yeah,
was the
yeah.
other one with a nuclear family?
Yeah. Is that so funny?
And was it mostly young actors?
I did mostly young, but no, Harry Gold had all ages, adults. If
Yeah.
anything, he was really primarily adults.
And this is like mid 80s?
Mid 80s.
This is like the
This
height
is
of
the
like
height of child
child
actors.
actors.
Yeah.
Because you
This-
were,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yes,
because
Yeah.
I knew of you,
Yeah, yeah.
needless to say.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I didn't work. I worked a little bit.
I
But
heard your name.
Yeah,
Because you were friendly with a lot of my clients.
yeah, exactly. Right.
So,
yeah.
it, kind of crossed over.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just
And
knew.
and now there's a small group of us that have all stayed in touch through the years. You know?
really have. You've
Oh,
kept it.
yeah, yeah,
I'm the same
yeah,
way, though. I'm
yeah.
friendly with most of my old clients.
And the thing is, I'm very friendly with Bobby Jacoby, who was on this show.
I love Bobby.
And Bobby knows
He's the
everybody.
best.
Bobby
Everybody.
has kept in touch with
Everybody.
everybody. Yeah. I mean,
Everybody.
and he knew everybody. Between him and Billy,
he really
they knew
did.
everybody, because Billy was on Silver Spoons.
He was on everything.
Yeah, and so was Bobby.
Yeah, Bobby.
Yeah.
But I represented Bobby.
Oh,
Did
you
you know
did?
that? And Laura.
Oh yeah.
And Suzanne, his sister, was an agent with me.
Oh wow.
She did commercials. The
Yeah.
two of us were partners.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I think the Jacoby family was such a great family.
Dolores.
As a matter of fact, April Wayne, Billy's ex-wife, is now training me.
Oh no way.
Yeah, well, when I show up to go work
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Yeah. So through Bobby, I keep in touch with a lot of those people. Bobby and Dave Faustino. So when you're at Harry Gold, who are some of your clients then?
Well, at that point, I was working for a woman by the name of Barbara Stark, who I'm still very close to.
God, that
She
name
has
sounds
one
familiar.
client left, I think Kobe Bell, who's on a series right now, and I
Uh-huh.
can't remember what show he's on. But she was my boss, and unfortunately, she just didn't gel there, but I loved working for her, and I was her assistant. And then Harry told me, don't get comfortable because you're not equipped to be an agent yet. We're going to be meeting with other agents. And I remember them all coming through, saying
Yep.
hi to me. I was working with a woman named Ruth Hansen who did commercials. And somehow, right out of the bat, Jeff Greenberg, who cast Modern Family, Cheers, and Frasier, and all those shows, called me up and asked me they needed Rhea Perlman's son on the show. I remember the young actor was named Jared Leto. Not Jared Leto, Jared.
I was gonna be like,
Jared
wait, what?
I can't remember his last name, but it was Jared Leto, but pronounced differently. He was little, like 9 years old.
Yeah.
And I booked the role, and out of the gate, it was like 6 episodes. And I thought, okay, maybe I could do this. Fake it till you make it type
Yep.
situation. I thought, maybe I know what I'm doing. I
Yep.
really don't, but I'm going to try. And they were still marching in different agents to come in to take over the department. And then they basically made me an offer. And I said no, because it was the same money I was making as an assistant. Sadly, we had Judith Barcy, the little girl that was killed. She was a big Spielberg girl.
Oh,
She was set on
Poltergeist?
fire.
No, but that's not Heather.
She
You're
was,
thinking Heather.
yeah,
Rowe.
Heather. But no,
Yeah.
Judith Barcy was a young actress who worked tons, was a pretty
Yeah.
on her way, and she was killed by her father, and the mother
Oh, I
was
remember
killed.
this. I
They were
remember
caught
this.
in
I remember
Chatsworth,
this.
Canoga Park. They
Yes,
were-
Wow.
it was a divorce
Yeah, it
situation.
was a terrible
Oh my God,
situation.
there was a lot of horrific stuff.
Yeah,
like
we had
that,
a
I
lot
feel
of
like, in
weird
the
things go on,
80s.
but we also had a lot of good things
Yeah.
because Leonardo DiCaprio came in, obviously, and at that point, we were one of his final meetings, and then Harry was then saying, okay, we're going to give you a run for it. We'll let you take over the department. So I asked for a little bit more money. I stayed. Leo was one of my very first signs. I
Yeah.
mean, I dabbled in agenting a little bit prior to where I got to meet people. I even met Brad Pitt. He was
Yeah.
one of the first people that came in that I saw, and I really, really liked him. And I met his family, and they were so kind.
How old was he when he first
Young.
started?
He kicked around for a
young.
long time.
Yeah, like,
Young.
well, I know he
long
kicked
time.
around
Probably
before
around
he.
22, 23.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he before
Yeah.
he got his big
Yeah.
break, he was around for a long time.
Oh,
He
yeah.
He was
was.
actually, I mean, he went on a bunch of like so there used to be the teen magazines,
Mhm.
and they would
Yep.
do like a trip where they would like go to Magic Mountain, and they get a bunch of the like Brian Green
Yeah.
and Dave and a bunch of people together and go. And Brad Pitt would go on these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Interesting.
he was like kicking around for
He
a
was in the
long
mix.
time.
He was in
yeah,
the mix.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he was working as a writer's assistant at Young and Restless
Oh,
and
wow.
at the chicken place giving the menus out.
Wow.
So he was doing 2 jobs,
Yeah.
but really wanted it. Like
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
into it. And I think I want to say I might have booked him on a Jordache commercial, but I was still unsure of what I was doing.
Yep.
But he was one of the first. But Leo was my first like start. And then Hilary Swank came there afterwards. And it kind of just rolled into, I
Yep.
had a really good stable of great clients and Selma Blair and, things just kept rolling. Like
when
it's,
you were like when somebody would come in and
Mhm.
it would be like, all right, I want you to take a look at this young kid, Leonardo DiCaprio. What is your gauge? Like, what are you looking for?
I mean, I
Or
would
how
say,
did you know like, okay, this is
Right.
here's what
I
I'm
mean,
gonna
sometimes you do.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
sometimes you don't know. I
Right.
mean, look, I met Jessica Simpson and didn't know. So, I've been wrong too. So I'm not all perfect. I
Yeah.
don't have, not 100% right.
Yeah, yeah.
And I always say if we knew the secret recipe, that would be the most successful person
Right.
in showbiz.
But I feel like back then, being in that scene a little bit, there was always a couple people that had like a little extra buzz around
Yes.
them. And
Yes.
Leo was one of those people.
or they-
Leo was.
Yeah.
Or they had that it factor
And then
where
there's
they
people
were
who-
just talented.
who were very talented, but
Corey Nemec was and then kind
He
of
was.
fizzed out.
I love
Yeah.
Corin. We've had him on the show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
One of my
love
good
him too.
friends.
He's
Yeah.
so
He's a
talented.
great actor.
Yeah.
But just
Talented.
never got the traction that it should have gotten.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he should have.
Yeah.
I
He
feel like that about a
absolutely
lot
should've.
of musicians.
Yeah.
I mean, I have like
Yeah.
it's the
Right.
it's the same story,
But
right?
is.
It's like
the one thing with Leo is though, I
Timing
think I think that he never lost focus. This was what he wanted to do.
He had a game plan.
and he
Yeah.
pursued it.
Yeah.
And he never lost focus off of it.
Didn't.
Yeah.
well, and
And a
he
lot of-
happens to be
and-
really fucking good at
He's
it.
He
great.
is.
That
He's
we
great
can
at it.
forgive all the other stuff.
He's great at it. He's great at it. But there's a lot of guys out there with talent who, as soon as a little bit of success started coming their way, got distracted by all the stuff, the outside
Yeah,
things.
you're right about
Yeah.
that.
And even though you do see him kind of that way now, there was a long period of time where he was very focused on
Right.
exactly what he wanted to do.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
He
of
was
course.
committed because on Gilbert Grape, I remember he would
God,
go.
what a great
yeah,
film
he
that
was
was.
unbelievable. But
That's a must see.
Yeah, and it really is, and it still is. It's a lot of young
That
people's
and
favorite
This Boy's
film.
Life.
Yeah.
Those two.
Yeah,
Those were
great.
the two.
But you know,
of
we
his
went to
that
Boys
were,
Life to a screening. I remember Leo, his mom and his dad, and his grandmother at the time. We went to see it at Warner Brothers. We were in the theater knowing how great it was. The performance from everybody, Ellen
Yep.
Barkin, Robert De Niro,
Unbelievable.
genius. And I was on that set up in Canada, and you knew brilliance was
Yeah.
happening. 5 people went to the movie on
Yeah.
that Friday night, and it just bombed. It
And,
It's a
and
great-
it
it's a
never
great
made
movie, though.
sense.
It's a great
That
movie.
was
Yeah.
like an Oscar-worthy film.
It really was.
It really was. And that's like, why don't they remake shit like that?
Yeah.
Why are they remaking a bunch of crap we've
It's
already
so
seen?
But
true.
he had those He also had Basketball Diaries around
That was
Yes.
good.
time, too.
Yeah. With the what was the
Really
name?
was great.
I read the
don't know.
book too.
Really good.
Mom, and he's like, "Give me
Yeah.
the money."
Yeah. So
really good.
sad.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
sad.
No,
We
he
just
was look.
cried.
There's but that kind of talent doesn't. I mean, you kind of struck gold right off.
I did.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did.
yeah.
Pretty
I mean,
amazing.
right out.
And Toby wasn't with you, was he?
No, but
Yeah.
Toby obviously was part of the clan.
They were like thick as steel
I
always.
couldn't get them apart. Are you
no,
kidding?
every audition,
Yeah.
Everything.
everywhere they went, they were together.
They were like glue.
Yeah.
And by
Yeah.
the way, just for the record, my office overlooked Burbank, all of the city of Burbank, basically. And I knew where Toby lived because Leo would be like, I'm at Toby's.
Yeah.
And I remember looking out the window and calling and saying, get your ass out of bed.
Yeah.
I can see your cars in the front of Toby's house.
Yeah.
Like, because he would avoid me or ignore me to
Right.
try to like not go to audition or
Right.
something.
Right.
And it would make me laugh. But Toby's career was much more successful than Leo's back then.
And back then.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was 100% all about Toby. And we were kind of like always secondhand. Like it
Yeah.
was Lucas Hawes, Fred Savage, you know
Yep.
what I mean? They were the boys. And the truth is he on Gilbert Grape, he went to a table read and was going to be playing one of the best friends.
Mm.
So it was Fred Savage that actually was playing. And I think they were going to go to an offer with Lucas Hawes. And then Leo got it at the table read,
Wow.
basically.
For Gilbert
De Niro's-
Grape?
Yeah.
I can't
Michael
even.
Keaton Jones, the director, and Robert De Niro spotted.
I
Like,
couldn't see anybody else doing that role.
No,
I know.
He was
No,
fantastic.
I know.
Not Fred Savage.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
But I mean, the
crazy.
thing is, he's a really, really, really good actor.
Yeah.
he's
He is.
so
Yeah.
talented. And by the way, mind you, very kind.
Yeah.
His family still is good to me.
Yeah.
When I need something,
Yeah.
when I try to do,
Yeah.
a favor, they take my call and they've been just good to me. As
Yeah.
a couple years ago, he actually had me meet with his team to see if I wanted to take a job within his whole company.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah. So he's been good to me. He sent me a few pieces of art. I've gotten some books from him. I think at one point I got Abraham Lincoln. He had sent out, I think Martin Scorsese got one. I received one,
Yep.
his lawyer. I don't know whomever else
Yep.
he sent it, but it was a special thing. And I remember the package said, to Bonnie, love Leo. And I called him and I said, do you think you're Elvis? Like, you need to sign your last fucking name.
Yeah.
If my kid ever needs like a heart transplant, I'm going to have to
Right.
sell this and nobody's going to know who Leo is.
Yeah.
Like put your last name.
Right.
But
That's
No,
funny.
they
of
know
course,
now.
Yeah,
They
I
know now.
I
And
know.
he
That's
is.
probably-
He's
yeah.
like, you can say Leo.
Yeah.
Everybody knows who you're
People
talking
know.
about. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
pretty-
I'm
unbelievable.
so happy he's done so well. And you know what? He's a good person
Yeah.
inside out. And like you, he's friends with the same
He stayed friends with the
kids.
same people.
Yeah, same
And you know,
people.
listen, as much as you do see him on the magazines and stuff, he has tried to keep his private life
Yep,
as
private.
private as
Yeah.
possible.
As-
he really
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
You don't really, he's
Yeah.
very private.
Yeah, he is.
And he's tried to, which I respect this. He's tried to at least take the voice that he has, the attention he has, and do some kind of good in the
Something, yes.
world.
I mean, the
Yeah.
reality is he has been famous for longer than he hasn't been.
No, that's
I
true.
mean, that's
Yeah.
a real,
True.
like,
Yeah.
at some point, I think anybody, because when he was, paparazzi
Yeah.
fodder,
Bait, right.
he was bait. Was when we were going to club.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yeah.
late '90s, early 2000s. After
true.
Titanic, all of a sudden he's this huge heartthrob. I remember hanging out with Leah. I mean, I have a very, very, very bizarre story, but I'm not even going to touch on that one. May have been July 4th at the Mondrian, and I may have decided, like, why not try LSD? It was very weird. Only person that did it nearly ended up going to Malibu with Toby, Leo, and somebody else. Not a good look.
Yeah.
I remember Tiffany coming out of the bushes going, "Where are you going?" And I'm like,
Oh.
I don't know. Anyway, didn't make that choice, which is good, but I'm sure it was fine. I'm sure we were just going to Nick Adler's house. But he was the kid that was on the Growing Pains.
Yeah.
That's who he was for a while to
Yeah.
a lot of us in LA. Like if we were out, it was like, oh, that guy's on.
But you know what's weird
but,
is history.
and then like 2 years later, it was like,
I know,
Jesus
he just
Christ.
blew up.
Like unbelievable.
blew
honestly,
up.
if you were kind of in that scene, you knew that something was coming for him.
100%.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting though? Get a load of this because Warner Brothers, really talk about dropping the ball. I've had it happen probably twice in my career that I think of like it could have been so different. He was on Growing Pains. I got him the job on This Boy's Life,
Mhm.
and it was a big deal.
Yeah.
It was such a big deal then. And the two casting directors who I'm still friends with, and they have the audition tapes.
Oh,
They
wow.
have never shown them to anybody, and
Yeah.
they're very also private, which
Yep.
is so cool.
Right.
And they told me that he was going to get the offer, and I knew he wasn't available because he was doing Growing Pains.
Mhm.
And I remember the producer Art Linson called me and screamed at me like nobody's business. I've never been screamed at as loud and scary ever in my life. And I had to go to the television department of Warner Brothers to get him out. And at the time, he was the saving grace for growing pains.
Yeah,
yeah.
They were bringing the homeless character in. He had done a few episodes. He was blowing up, like you said.
Yep.
You know, he was the one that they knew could possibly save
It's
the show.
almost impossible.
Almost
too.
impossible.
Yeah.
They were really hoping, like, peg it right there. I had to do an outside deal. And this is when you didn't have lawyers, you didn't have managers, you didn't have teams.
Right.
Yeah.
It was me, myself, and I.
Yeah.
And I had to make a deal with Warner Brothers Television to give them an option for another series.
Yeah.
So he could have been the star of any show you want to name.
Yeah.
At Step by Step or whatever. And they never called to exercise the agreement. We went right from one film to the next film.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting looking back because you always think he could have been on Step by Step.
Yeah.
He could have just
Did you have
been.
clients on Step by Step?
I had people on Step by Step? Yeah.
I did a great episode of Step by Step.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I had a lot of people
I had a
on that
really
show.
good episode.
Which one?
So it was like one of the first season.
I don't remember that
It was called
show.
Pulling Together was the name of the
How
episode.
the hell do you remember that?
Because I remember the episode.
Wow.
And I had a great little arc on it. It was just on the episode. It was great. It was really, really.
Wow. I had Marla Sokoloff. She was the young Gia. She's quite popular
She
from
worked with
it.
John, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sent her to John.
Yeah.
I went to summer camp with Marla.
Oh, you did?
I'm a little older than her, and
She's
she was
from
this
like Sonoma
she's
or
from San
somewhere.
Francisco.
Yeah, San
Walnut-
Francisco.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my
I
God,
went
her
to
mom,
summer camp.
Cindy. I love that family.
Her cousin was my age, and so Marla, I remember singing a song from Les Mis
Uh-huh.
and sweeping the floor. What was Colette?
Cosette.
Thank you.
Cosette.
Yeah. So she.
That's so funny.
And then all of a sudden, she was all over the place.
She was all over the place too.
She was
We
on
had a
Full
great
House.
run. We had a great
Yeah.
run together. And then David Lipper, did you work with him on an episode? No,
I don't
because he
know.
was the rugged bad boy.
You probably have worked with so many stage moms.
I have.
Okay.
I have.
What is that like? Because I got it because we've had Bobby talk about his mom.
Oh, yeah,
his
which
mom
was
Dolores.
amazing.
His
Classic
mom
stage mom.
wrote the book.
Yeah,
Right.
She
yeah.
really
But you're
did.
on the other side of it, right?
But she was joyful. That's
Okay,
the
yeah.
difference.
She,
She did
I
it
think
with a
in
smile.
hindsight, she was joyful.
Joyful.
I mean,
yeah.
I knew Dolores. She could,
Yeah.
she knew how to
She
throw it
did.
around.
But there
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
kind,
Yeah.
side.
Kay,
like,
Kay's
wing,
mom
yeah.
was, very, first of all, she was a very small lady.
Love Kay.
And very quiet and would never want to rock the boat
No.
or anything like that. Dolores, was jumping up and down on the boat.
She did.
Yeah,
that's
She
yeah,
did.
yeah.
Kay
funny.
was literally the nicest.
Yeah, yeah.
I
That
mean,
is so
love
funny.
her. I have worked with so many. I mean, some being awful, and then Leo's parents, the best ever.
Right.
Yeah.
They were
right.
divorced and worked together, and his stepmom Peggy, the nicest. Everybody was so kind. I hung out with them.
Yeah.
You kind of have to. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
in that field and you're dealing with kids, right? There's a level of trust that comes with,
There is. There is. There were many regrets along the way, some that I didn't want to work with because I
Right.
couldn't stand them. Some have called to apologize to me.
Right.
Wow.
I did a lot on Sandlot, had a lot of people
Yeah.
on Sandlot. And there was in particular one difficult person that
Yeah.
created a problem.
Patrick Brennan wasn't a client of yours, was he?
Patrick Renna was a client
Oh,
of
yeah.
mine.
Yeah.
Victor DeMott. I had so many people.
Yeah.
Marty Orca. There were so many. Jordan
He's
Ocean.
now got like a second life from the Sandlot.
Yeah, he really do. They all
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
They all do.
Yeah.
And I love them, by the
Yeah.
way. They're
So fun.
I
some
love
of the
Patrick.
nicest.
He went to John Homa too.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Some of the nicest, tightest. I didn't have him on Sandlot though, but the nicest. I mean, they're
Yeah.
just a great group, and it turned out to be my best friend who cast the film,
Yeah.
Joseph Middleton, which he's a podcast in his own. You guys should definitely think about him because he is hilarious.
love it.
Send.
He is like, wow.
So through Leo's kind of success, is that when now some other people are starting to knock on your door who have a little heat behind
No,
them?
because I'm
No?
still signing. I mean,
Yep.
I've got a lot of people. I probably
Yeah.
had 18 people on series at any given
Uh-huh.
time, and then probably 7 or 8 people breaking in films.
Yep.
Because it was a different business back then.
Mhm.
I mean, it really was so
Yeah.
different. And
Yeah.
the amount of agents, there was probably only really 4 or 5 great agents at
Yeah.
what we did. It was
Yep.
a specialty. And I mean, Iris and I, neck and
Iris
neck.
Burton,
Yep.
Judy Savage,
Yep.
Bo
So
Shoot.
shoot. Yep.
Yeah.
Judy Savage, love her. Still, I mean,
She's a sweetheart.
Yeah, still friendly with her
Yeah,
too.
she was my
And-
agent.
Yo, she's the best.
Yeah, she was great.
She's the best. I love her.
And her
family,
daughter
too.
was on the news, Tracy Savage.
Tracy, yeah. Is she still
Such
a
a great
newscaster?
last name.
Yeah, I don't know if she's still a newscaster, but
Such a great-
she was very involved in the OJ thing.
I remember that.
because she had a source and she had some information,
And
she wouldn't give up the source, and they threatened to put her in
That's
jail.
right.
No, and Judy was a sweetheart, and all the ladies that worked there were always so sweet.
Yeah, so I mean, Iris was the only one that threatened me.
Iris was tough.
She threatened me, and I forgot I mean, I know what she said to me, but I don't remember why she called to tell me that I was a piece of shit kid and that I should quit while I was ahead. And she said, I'm going to steamroll you with an 18-wheeler and I'm going to run you over with those big wheels.
Did you know?
She threatened me.
That's like straight out of
Threatened
Swimming with
me.
Sharks.
Oh.
Okay.
River, Leo, it was kind of like that was the scene back then.
Yeah.
It was like we were in that scene. It was like Leo was
Cutthroat.
quickly coming up, River being a little bit older,
Yep.
and it was like kind of neck and neck.
And she had River.
She had River.
Did
She had
you ever-
Joaquin
River
too.
Phoenix.
Did you
All
ever
of them.
see
She had all of them.
The Disaster Artist?
Oh, yeah.
She's
With
portrayed in that, in The Disaster Artist.
oh, how
Because
funny.
the guy, Mark, the guy who...
The lead guy, yeah.
The lead, not the crazy guy, but the lead guy.
Yeah.
The other guy, she was his agent.
Okay.
So she's portrayed in that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Eventually, we became friends.
Yeah. Did you know the Schulmans?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. And she represented them too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emily was an agent.
Was she? She was on Small
Yeah.
Wonder.
I
She was-
remember her, the
Yeah,
redhead.
she was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they went to
Yeah.
Beverly. Their dad was a dentist.
Yeah, I remember
They-
her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really, yeah.
She was a great agent for a while,
Wow.
and then I think might have stepped away.
Her older sister, Bethany, is a cancer in Ohio now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. And
That is.
here's what I, as an only child, what I always found fascinating were that there were acting families.
Oh, yeah.
That seemed
Yeah.
very interesting to me growing up because I grew up in LA. I was an only child. Of course, like every kid in LA, I wanted to be an actress at one point. And, my mom was very anti. The closest I got was game shows. She was okay with that. But I knew so many people who were 3 kids. They were all in the
Yep.
business.
Yeah.
And honestly, what, as an only child, what's that about?
I think I think you have one kid who takes an interest, and then
Then you're like, well, I'm going to
maybe they're making
auditions
some money,
anyway.
and then
Here's
the
my
other-
lottery
It's
ticket.
true.
I
the
guess.
other kid gets interested.
Oh, it was Leo's stepbrother, Adam, who
Yeah.
was actually the one that wanted to be the actor. And I met with Adam and with Leo. He came in kind of like you just said.
Yeah.
One takes interest, the other rolls along.
Right. Yeah.
But you're right. It is about
It's
families.
very
Because I mean, even
interesting.
River's family, every one of them.
Everybody.
And it's interesting too. I
The
mean, like
Jacobys.
look-
We
Yeah,
just talked about them.
Jacobys,
The
all
whole
of them.
the
family.
Fastinos too. I mean,
The Rabisis.
and the funny thing is, and
yeah.
you get one kid who gets on a series like Dave, but Mikey was working almost just as much.
True.
He just didn't have the fame from being on a series.
Yeah.
Soleil's
Yeah.
brother was a actor
Both of
his
before.
brothers, Sean and
Mino,
Mino. So Sean Fry, who was Virgil's son.
Yes.
And then Mino, who is Sandra's son.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Mino
then
was sweet.
Virgil and Sandra had Soleil.
Right. And
Yeah.
Mino was doing really well back
Mino
in
was
the
on the
day.
Bad News Bears.
Yeah, he was
He
really
was on
on
this
his way.
show,
A show.
time traveling show.
Yes.
Yeah. But Sean was in
Not MacGyver. God.
E.T. He was one of the friends in E.T. And then he was just in the news recently for something that he had done.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
But you're right about the families, because even Blake Lively's family.
Yeah, that's right.
Ernie was the acting coach for so many
Yeah.
of my clients as well, too.
And her sister was Teen Witch. Hello.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
it
like
was
the best, worst movie ever made.
'Cause
Well,
I-
I mean,
yeah,
the
Robin
older
Lively.
sister was in the Wildcats.
Brandy
Yeah.
Gold, who is Harry Gold,
That's right.
Tracy Gold, because she
Yes.
became an agent and she does really, really
Even
well.
the Batemans.
Yeah, the
I
Batemans
love
too.
Justin.
Justine.
I
Oh,
love
she's the
Jason
best.
Bateman.
Yeah, I
And
like
yeah,
both of
I
them.
mean,
Yeah.
I worked on his show that went like 22 episodes.
but it is very
Side by
interesting.
Side, I think it was called.
Yeah, that's
He
right.
left Silver Spoons to go
Yeah,
to Side
and
by
it
Side.
was they were the neighbor was across the hall or something.
Yes, nicest family. David Garrison was the
David
dad.
Garrison.
Yep,
Yeah,
was the
David
dad.
Garrison who left
Jesus
Married with
Christ, you
Children in
guys
the
are freaking
height
me
of
out.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, we
He
went and
was
saw so
good.
Dave and I went and saw him on Broadway in Titanic. He was kind of like, it was a legendary story how this guy who'd kicked around as an actor for years and years, and you finally make it on a show and you're about to finally make some real money.
Finally.
And you decide that you're going to take acting seriously and
Oh,
leave the show.
that's tough.
It's like an agent's nightmare, right?
It is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was
I
he
had
the
kids find
first
religion
husband?
and quit.
He was the first husband.
He was the
I mean,
first,
but
Marcy's
then Ted
first
came,
husband. Yeah.
and Ted's awesome. And he's
Yeah.
on. Have you seen Shrinking?
No, I hear it's great.
He's great on it. Ted's like the nicest guy. Ted
I've seen.
McGinley.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
a few because my girlfriend and her partner are the casting directors on it. They're very
Okay.
proud of
It's
that
a
show.
great show.
Very proud.
Harrison
I need
Ford
to
is
see it.
great. Wendy Malick, Jason Segel. It's really.
I haven't.
Really,
I
really
watched
good.
like 2 episodes. I have to get back
Oh,
into
it's great.
it. Okay.
It's really.
I keep up. There's a lot of content. There's
It
a
is.
lot of
There
content.
is so much.
There
I
is.
keep watching. So okay. So how long were you on the agent side?
Forever. I honestly, I've lost
Because you started
count.
at Harry Gold and then you went back to
But then she became a manager. But before that, I mean, you've had some other really big clients.
Yeah, I
did.
And in fact,
I did, from Zac Efron,
Hilary Swank,
Cole and Dylan Sprout,
but-
Corbin Blue. Yeah, like yes. I
having
have.
known you, so Bonnie and my sister are good friends, and that's how I know Bonnie.
Yes.
My sister used to be in casting.
Who I love.
And, I've known you, I don't know, 15, 20
Yeah.
years. And so I'm scrolling through Instagram as we do, and there's a Hilary Swank thing, and she's getting an award or being honored. And she says, I owe my whole career, the person who believed in me from day one is Bonnie Liedtke.
Oh,
It was very sweet.
It was
awesome.
really,
very
really
sweet.
sweet.
She is very
Yeah.
kind. She does mention me in pretty much every interview, and I'm still very close to her, and I
Yeah.
love her so much. I'm so
That's
happy.
amazing.
I was there when she met her first husband, who I'm good friends with, Chad Lowe, too.
Yeah.
And now she's just, with the baby. She has a beautiful family and lives out of state, and she invites me to come stay with her all
Yeah.
the time.
She's
a good
still
girl.
acting though. I mean, she's
Yeah.
still
She is.
doing.
Oh yeah, she is. She's now
still-
on Yellow Jackets as of like a month ago.
Right.
But she's doing very, very well. I'm very proud of her. But she was another one that you knew she was so talented.
Mhm.
She was homeless when I first met her.
Wow.
And she tells a story. She had $10 of quarters left, and her mom were living in their car and called me. And I said, with a voice like that, because she randomly used a payphone and called me, and I picked up, and I said, come on in. I want to see what you look like, because maybe I can get you into some voice work. And she came in, and I was like, that voice. And she's very much a leader. She's a baller. She comes in and owns that room.
Yeah.
And I love that strong personality. And I remember many people would say, they would ask me, can you send me a model? She became a model
Yeah,
and did
yeah.
very, very well. And I remember certain casting directors would say, she's not pretty. And I was like, she's on the cover of this
Yeah.
magazine.
Right.
It's all in the eye of the beholder.
That's
Beauty
right,
is what
yeah.
we decide.
I mean, she's got insane
gorgeous.
bone structure.
Yeah, she's
like she's got the
gorgeous.
Yeah.
cheekbones
But
for
she
days.
was
Yeah.
so uber talented, and we knew. And her and Leo became best friends too.
Oh, wow.
I hung out with both of them because I traveled a lot with my clients. Certain
Yeah.
ones that I was close to, Leo I was really close to, and I did travel all over. I mean, I would go to New York, Chicago, everywhere with him, and he was just such a good person. I could hang out with him.
Was Boys Cry, was that the big
Yes,
breakout role
that
for
was
her?
because she was on Beverly Hills 90210 when
Yes.
had gotten
That's right.
fired.
Yes.
She got fired.
And it was like a weird. That was
Yeah.
when the show was on its last leg
On his
anyway.
last leg, they bring in
and-
people
yep.
to save the show. They
Yeah.
think they're going to save it.
She
and
was
then
like a
But
sub-
Boys Cry is, I mean, a
Yeah.
big
That is-
movie. And
She
she's
was so
unbelievable
good.
in it.
Unbelievable.
That whole cast was everything
Yeah.
about that film. But she was
That one should
she
be
won an
remade.
Oscar,
That one should
That-
be. You know,
yeah,
I mean, I don't think
especially-
you can though, but
especially nowadays.
But
But
like,
More
exactly,
timely.
that's what I was thinking when you talk about remakes. But
Yeah.
you wonder why are they going with the cheese stuff? But oh
because and it's bombing. But
Yeah.
anyway, what is sorry. She won an Oscar for Boys.
she did. For Boys Don't Cry. Yes.
Yeah.
she
that
did.
was
And then
pretty
for Million,
insane.
Help Me
Million Dollar Baby.
Yeah.
Which I still haven't seen.
Oh,
sorry. I
that's
have to
another
catch
great
up. I
one.
know. I've seen like bits of it. I
There's
never finished
so
it.
many. I understand when
Yeah.
you talk about content. It's
There's a lot
almost
out there.
impossible.
There,
Yeah.
I've seen so much, and then there's like these weird chunks
Yeah.
where I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I've never seen Heat.
No way.
Don't ask.
Heat is one of the greatest movies ever.
I never saw not Deliverance, The Departed.
Departed is great.
There's
It's
some
great.
Heat,
there's
in
some,
my book, I like Heat better than Departed.
right, but like there's a couple
has,
major
like, the
ones I'm like,
greatest
oh shit, I gotta
Shootout
go
of
watch.
any movie.
That's
Right.
I honestly think it's during my like panic
yeah.
attack era where
Yeah.
like anything would set me off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't watch
But,
it.
I mean-
Couldn't watch Requiem for a Dream.
get it.
Everyone's like, do not watch that
Oh,
movie.
yeah.
Unbelievable.
That'll fuck you up for years.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
It still
Cast and
does.
Heat.
Yeah.
Yeah. It still
Sorry,
does. I
I-
think about that though. No, you're right.
Like when you're having severe anxiety attacks, like certain things
Certain
you
things
don't
are
want to
are
avoid. So there's like a
triggering.
chunk of stuff I
They're
missed in like
triggering,
the late
100%.
90s.
I used to represent Aaron Foster.
Oh,
Sarah and
yeah.
Aaron
Oh.
Foster, and they're from their podcast and
Yeah.
all that
Yes.
stuff. And she was another one because I represented Chad Michael Murray, who I love, and the two of them were dating at the way back when.
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
so proud of her. I'm just so proud of her.
My other friend from camp was a producer on that.
I'm
The
so
executive
happy.
producer with her
Yeah.
on
Went
the
to camp with everybody.
I did.
Yeah.
What
My
camp did
camp
you
was
go
as
to?
good as
Yeah.
as Beverly Hills.
What camp was this?
I went to Sky Lake Yosemite camp,
Okay.
and it was
Oh.
it was the like more rugged area camp that wasn't River Way
yeah.
or Golden Arrow, but
Yeah.
like this was like Dustin Hoffman's kids, but it was like it's the same. It's like you're in screened in cabins.
So
The
good.
best part of my childhood, as I'm sure you can imagine,
Yeah.
but it was the most like consistent part of my
Yeah.
childhood too. But Andy Samberg went there. Evan Bogart, who just went viral for talking about the Rihanna song.
Okay.
He went there. He's Neil Bogart's son.
Yeah, I knew his brother Brad.
Ollie Obst is who's the producer
Oh, yeah.
with Aaron.
I
and
love
that's
Ollie.
Linda.
Aaron.
That's
Yeah,
the show.
that's her.
Who else went to the camp? Marla Sokoloff
Yeah.
and my friend Lee Landau, who's not famous, but her uncle's John Landau.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it
Yeah.
was fun. It was a
Yeah.
good camp.
Right.
I can bribe people with what I know about them from when they're 10.
I like it.
It's
great.
so
Just
funny because
kidding.
even our kids though now, like my daughter will be like, somebody like, do you know some guy named Fred Durst or something? I'm like, what do
Yeah.
you mean? She goes, well, his kid, I'm going over their house. I'm like, oh my God. Or she told me, wait, my favorite was my best line. She goes, my best friend's mom sings a song. She's much older, mom. And I go, who? And I go, what's the song? She goes, something like hit me with your best shot. I'm like, Pat Benatar. You know,
Totally.
I'm like,
I
it,
know.
like
Yeah.
you moron.
It's so
Like,
funny.
It
Yeah.
is. I mean,
you know, your kids are like, you have 2 children, right?
I have one. I
Okay,
have one. Yeah.
Little or
He's 11. So,
Okay, so- but
depending on where.
you're coming into it. It happens.
Oh, he's
happens.
next. I mean, talk about the like my kid has a huge personality, is very cute, and and charming, and knows how to talk to adults. Every time people see a picture of him, they're like, "Why don't you put?" And I'm like, "Have you met this kid? He can't sit still." So it really does take a certain personality
It does.
too.
It does. You're
You
right
know,
about
like
that.
my kid, he's not going to do anything anybody
Yeah.
wants him to do on cue.
It's so true. I've
No
tried to push my kids. It's
way.
useless. They were
It's
not
not. It's
actors.
not for everyone. I mean, I guess you've been on the business side of it, and I'm going to get like deeper, and you've seen all sorts of things happen with
I have.
different kids. Like, what's your take on it, especially after a lot of stuff has come to light in like documentaries in the last couple of years? I know that's a really serious
I mean,
question.
it's so disturbing and so upsetting. And I mean, I do think about that. I've been part of a lot of the documentaries and helping, and I actually was friendly with Brian Peck back in the day, who was a big part of that situation, and Bob Villard and
Bob
all
Villard
of those
was
guys.
big
And
name that had a
yeah,
lot.
even there were other ones
Yeah.
Right,
that
right.
have been part of it. And, often I think a couple of them have used me in some of their own stories, saying my agent told me not to go and
Right.
asked me not to go to these parties and
Mhm.
not to do this, and I chose not to listen to her.
Yeah.
And just as a mom, even though I don't think I even had kids when all that was going down, but the nurturing side of me just knows that you don't want to put minors in situations like that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, although, I look back and I think, oh my gosh, like I had some clients do things that back in the day, why did I allow that to happen?
Totally.
All the girls on 90210, because I probably represented, I think, most of them throughout their careers at some point. And I remember, them calling to say, tell such and such they have to lose weight. They can't wear that bathing suit because we're doing a summer
Yep.
episodes out of the gate.
Right.
And I would actually just pick up the phone and call and be
Right,
like, you need to
right.
lose weight. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell was I
Right.
thinking? So I feel there are times in my career that I look back and I think, wow. There's a
Mhm.
few regrets that I have as well.
Sure.
But most of the time I feel like I was pretty on point, and I always tried to help people. There was, a LA Times story not that long ago that I helped out, and I try to put people in connection. There was
Mhm.
a couple music things that were going on, actually. I put them in contact with people about certain people in some kind of hot water that they're doing more documentaries that are coming
Right.
out.
Right.
But I try to put the people together
Yeah.
to support them and get
Yeah.
what they need and so
I mean,
forth.
it was a different time, and I
was.
think as we just touched on, there were a lot of families that were involved in the entertainment
Yep.
business, and it's like a lot of stuff was going on that people just weren't aware of,
Yeah.
and
weren't.
now, and it's just it is horrific as a mother to
Yeah,
like go.
it
It
is.
was
Oh my
such
God.
a different time though.
I
and you
know.
had
But
so
you're like
many different-
adultified
Yeah.
children
Y-
who are now in adult situations that you're also going, they shouldn't be in them,
Right.
but
Right.
we've already adultified them.
Right,
So they've already hit
Exactly.
You
this
got it.
maturity.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's
bingo.
fucked up.
Yep.
It's fucked.
It
I
is
mean,
fucked up.
I'm actually thankful my mother
Yeah,
in some ways was like, I mean,
True.
she had her own shit.
so true. It's
Yeah.
so true.
She was 18 when she blew up. So
Yep.
for
Yeah.
her, it's like, I don't want my kid to go through that. And then that's
Yeah.
it. And like, sometimes when you hit something at 20 and then there's nowhere to go after,
That's
there's
tough too.
Yeah, that is tough too.
yeah, I mean, that I'm sure
They
you've seen
peak.
for every Leo, there's a not Leo.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so true.
You know?
It's so true. I
So
mean, I've represented some people who've gone through their own struggles. Eric Dane for a long
right,
time.
Yeah.
right.
I mean, I've gone through it, and I've gone through lots of rehab situations with clients.
Yeah.
Often they'll come and apologize.
Yeah.
They'll
Of course.
just show up at my door. They've written, certain letters to say they abused me.
Yeah.
They were awful to me, and they usually were, but I usually could handle it.
Mhm.
But in general, and then I have like my superstars. I mean, Dylan Sprouse has been a client 25 years.
Is his
You
brother
know?
still acting or not acting?
He
anymore?
is. Cole
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
I don't represent Cole as of about 2 years ago,
Yeah.
but he just came off of Riverdale and he had a couple
Is
of
that a
films.
tough thing when you got these two identical twins and they're not being represented by the same people and they're going out for?
I remember Leo giving me a hard time because he had gotten the offer on, wait for it. He had gotten the offer on Hocus Pocus, and we chose not to do Hocus Pocus. We
Uh-huh.
decided to go Gilbert Grape instead of Hocus Pocus.
Right.
But Hocus Pocus came out to $1 million, and $1
Right.
million probably was about 4 million, 5 million today.
Yeah.
It was massive. It was
Yeah.
the biggest payday ever. Would have saved everything
Right.
for him financially.
He
And
did
he was
all right.
still struggling at that point,
Yeah.
still struggling. And we said, let's roll the dice and let's try for Gilbert Grape. We did
Yep.
not have a lock on it. We were getting close to it, but we didn't have a lock on it. And I said, well, I'm going to replace you. And he said, what do you mean you're going to replace me? I go, I have somebody else and I'm going to get that job for. And he goes, so how do you sell both of us? I go, well, he's very different looking than you.
Yeah.
You two are very individual. He was coming off of a show called Erie, Indiana,
Uh-huh.
and he did Matinee, Hocus Pocus, Omri Katz. And Omri ended up starring in Hocus Pocus. He
Yeah.
did not make $1 million,
Yeah.
but it was still a great thing, and he makes a very good living off of being in that film because
Yeah.
it obviously is a film
Yeah.
that
Every
continues to have
every
legs.
year
Every
it has
year
a thing.
it's back.
Yeah.
It's back. But
It's like a
Omri
Christmas
also,
story.
he would tease me about it, like, what, are we twins? Like, you
Right.
just can, throw something to
Yeah.
the wall. And I was like, it's not like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there were times I remember.
But these guys actually are twins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are. In
Yeah.
this situation, it's interesting because they never said, let's work together. I had them obviously working
Right.
together as twins on
As
shows.
kids.
But in general, as they grew up, then it became very individual.
Yep.
And to me, I've always been able to tell them apart.
Yeah.
Even though I get it, they're identical, and you
Yep.
may say that. But I think it's probably not the smartest thing to do.
Yeah.
Looking back at it, I was so angry with Cole, just so angry because he fired me at the peak.
Yeah.
And I was pissed as can be at him. But at the same time, looking back with reflection now, I
Yeah.
get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think I was the best manager for him, but
How
in
do you
general,
make that shift from agent to manager? How did that happen?
you know what? I was at William Morris. I'd gone through William Morris agency to William Morris Endeavor. I
Okay.
made the merger.
Right.
I loved being an agent. I didn't even know anything else about being an
Yeah.
agent, and still probably am somewhat of an agent inside. I'm very structured. I have certain things I do certain ways that are still taught to me from being an agent.
Yeah.
But everybody was becoming a manager, and I was either going to go to a big agency again.
What's the difference?
What is the difference? I mean, look, a lot of
I
people
never
can say there
understood.
isn't, but there is. I mean, if
One,
I
I
only
always knew
have
like one couldn't negotiate. There's something.
managers can't.
Yeah.
So if I didn't have an agent, which I am agent friendly, I want everybody to have an agent, then they would have to have a lawyer to negotiate the
Got
deal
it.
out. I'm not supposed to procure work, but we do. I mean, like a casting director will call me and be like, hey, like your sister could have called me
Yeah.
and I said, oh, I got this person. But we are not supposed to be chasing
Solicit.
jobs.
You're
Yeah,
not supposed
that's what
to
we're
solicit.
not supposed
Got-
to
if
do.
people come to you, it's different.
Yeah. And I only
Got it.
really have, most of us, I'm going to say, have 20 to 35 clients is kind of the manager. And when I was an agent, it's hundreds.
Yeah.
You work for
Wow.
hundreds. I could have been
Yeah.
on a Hugh Jackman team or anybody. They
Yeah.
could just say, go to work and do this. Like,
Aside from talent, how do people, like if you have hundreds of people that are attached to your
Right.
roster and, obviously people are going to call in the big ones, are you making sure that your roster's diversified, or are you just kind of like, are there certain clients that you're like, and
I mean, it's
that's
a combination of a lot. When you're in a big agency, you actually are given projects to cover. So you
Got
have
it.
coverage. So maybe you're only covering Warner Brothers. So you are working on all the Warner, anything that's under Warner. So for instance, you could be working on Superman or whatever it may be.
Right.
And you're going to cover everybody at the agency on behalf of the agency.
it.
So it's not like you're just working for your list per se.
It's more
So, yeah,
project-based.
yeah,
That makes
it's
sense.
project-based.
I never knew how it worked.
Where I'm now everything.
In
Yeah.
that niche that you were kind of in with this like young actor thing.
Right. It was a hard transition.
Right. But I'm thinking back to that time because there were a bunch of outside people, but then you said the name of like, there's like 5 or 6. And as an actor, you know, you wanted to be with one of those 5 or 6 people because right when you walked in the room with the casting director, it gave you a little bit of what sort of
Clout.
Clout,
not clout,
yeah.
but credibility.
Credibility.
Yeah.
Credibility.
Yeah.
That okay,
This
Barney
person
believes in
believes,
you.
yes. Yeah.
You must
Right.
have something.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Look, like everything's changed. Everything in the world has changed. It's a different world, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We now do 90%. I don't remember what the new rule is, but I think it's 90% self-tape, 10% in person.
Yeah.
Because SAG, you know, there's a ruling on that
Yeah.
now that they
Yeah.
do have to see people in person. And some of my clients love it and others hate it.
Yeah.
You know, it just
Right.
depends on who you are
Right.
and what you're skilled at. And if
Right.
you're great in a room and you own that room, get your butt in there. But then most of them, I would say majority prefer to self-tape
Wow.
because they can fuck up and
Yeah,
screw
do it
up
over
so
again,
much
yeah.
until they get it right. That, you know,
No,
you have
I-
100 tries, where in person it's really 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So it's a
Oh, in
little
person
different.
is like if you I did some auditions myself as a young actress, but I got very close to a couple big roles,
Right.
and it's unnerving if you don't have a good chemistry when you walk in and someone's just gone off the phone and had an argument. Like I remember literally sitting in a waiting room once, and a casting director was clearly having an argument with their
Right.
spouse.
Yeah.
You don't want to walk in
Oh. No,
after
you don't.
that.
You don't.
You don't.
That's
like what? Like
hard.
okay, she'll see you, and you're like, oh fuck.
Isn't
You're like,
that
hi.
hard? It is
It's
hard.
not, and like I actually stopped acting before self-taping was even a
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
or like a real thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would have probably done a lot better had you just let me
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Like I actually think it's such a blessing for a lot of people who like can do what they need to do without,
Right.
especially when it's like a movie.
It's so different.
Yeah, it's so different now.
It's not a good different. It's different.
It's
Are
It's a
you
different I don't
liking
like.
what you're doing now better?
No.
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 Yeah.
I think that right now showbiz is a tough game.
Oh,
It is
yeah.
so hard. It is so difficult. Where I'm not going to say I had easy street, but it was a lot easier for about 25, 30 years of it.
I feel like
Yeah.
the
You know?
lines, the rules, however you want to say it, was much more well defined.
Yes.
It was this is how it's
Structure.
done.
Yeah,
Right.
they were
This is how it's
structured.
done.
It was
Now
a-
it's like the Wild West.
Yep.
It could be done on your iPhone. It could be done on YouTube.
Yep.
It
Well,
could be done here. It
y-
could be done there.
How
Yeah.
many followers does this person have?
Yeah.
Do they already have a brand?
Yeah.
It's so true.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not even, you're not even talking about talent or luck. You're talking about well-placed branding dollars.
it's
Right.
so true.
It all comes,
It's so true.
It's a totally different way of thinking. I mean, entertainment has been capitalized.
Well,
Yeah.
let me
It really-
ask you this too.
Sorry, I
So,
get dark.
A couple
No,
years
it's
ago,
true.
I was playing golf with a writer's agent from William Morris Endeavor, and he was telling me it's all going to be about YouTube in the future. This is 2 or 3 years ago. You know, it's all going to be about YouTube and the content creators, like you're saying. So, are you seeing that the agents or managers are now looking to those people rather than finding actors?
No. There was a time that we always had to introduce, like, you know, Dan has 20 million followers. We
Right.
don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have to do that. Sometimes it can be important, but no, it's not. I
Yeah.
really think it comes down to hopefully the most talented or
Sure.
the 5 of the most talented people
Yeah.
get to be in that room at the very end. I have not had that. There was a minute there that I did feel like influence were starting to come through and getting jobs and stuff. I don't think that's the case as
Yeah.
much as it was. You know, look, even network television, I have the star of this new show called High Potential, and it's a massive hit. Massive. The network hasn't seen a hit like this in many, many years. And you look at that and you're like, oh, they all said network television was dead.
Mhm.
And okay, it's doing extremely well.
Mhm.
Right.
You know, so I don't know if anybody, one person can say this is the end all.
Yeah.
I feel like there are many different outlets. Certain things are going to find an audience and then sometimes they don't. And
Yeah.
like, you know, this boy's life didn't find an audience.
Right.
Yeah.
So you
right.
don't know why, even
But it
though we
only
think
got one shot back then,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's the thing.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
now something
It
cannot
yeah,
do
it's
well
reborn.
and then
It's
get
true.
bought by a different
Yeah.
streamer
Yep.
and blow
Yeah.
up.
Suits. I mean, we've seen it
So,
happen with so
yeah,
many.
which
Yeah.
is beautiful.
So many. Yeah.
I mean, like
It's true.
if you re-release, there was a movie that came out that didn't do very well in theaters, but then went to streaming and like
You're right.
blew all the. I can't remember what it was recent.
There's a few of those, I think.
Yeah.
But that's it. It is an interesting time because there's so much that caters to everybody.
True.
But it is nothing is this. I mean, I work in music. It's the same thing. It's the same type of like. There's no cost of entry, right? So everybody is now.
Right.
It's so true.
entering.
That is
That's
true.
it.
That's a very, very.
Yeah.
I like that.
can
And
use it.
there's the
You
flip
can
side
like
to it,
it.
though.
Talk-
If you
I like
are
that.
if you are talented as a writer, as a
Yeah.
director, as an actor, you have it's
you have outlets.
you have a way, a place.
It's true.
You don't have
Before-
to know somebody or come out here. You can just do it.
I
Yeah.
can't remember
Yeah.
if this was said on our podcast or if I listened to it or if it was in a dream perhaps.
Yeah.
But, you know, the one art that you really can't do on your own is acting.
That's right.
You need to be given permission or a
It was
script.
Brett.
Yeah.
It was
Right.
Brett who talked about it.
Thank you. But
Yeah.
it was, I
Yeah.
mean, he said that. I'm like, that is so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
You need permission. You need to be given a script or work with somebody. But given that we have cameras in our faces all the time now, you could just, if you feel like it, have a monologue.
Yeah.
It's so
or
true.
do a scene by yourself and put it out into the world and see where it lands.
You're totally right about
and
that.
that
it
is a
happens.
beautiful thing because
It
I think
is.
what we've seen is that so many people are creative out there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're creating content right
We're
now,
having a good
Dan.
time. Yeah.
You know, maybe we'll get a show out of it.
Yeah.
But there are people somewhere that are watching this, like
Yeah.
an interview talk show.
Absolutely.
And it's a wonderful thing. But what's so hard is now how to monetize it.
It
and
is-
now
that
you're
is
in
difficult.
this bazillion dollar OnlyFans era or, you know, Hollywood production lots that are empty. It's a weird.
It is so
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
It
So
is
weird.
Well,
so weird.
I guess this is a good, now that I've just brought the whole fucking conversation down, it's a good place to like where do you see the industry going? Where do you, and you're not working with kids anymore. You're
I
working
have a
with
couple.
everybody.
I was just going to say, my dream is to always work with young development. I like
Yeah.
to take something that's nothing and make it just shine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to always say the movie The Idolmaker, like,
Yeah.
always reminded me of what I
Yeah.
wanted to do. And I got to do it. It's an interesting thing because I've got two that I just believe in that are young,
Mhm.
and John Homa is their coach on both of them. And I don't try to take more than that anymore because unfortunately it's not enough money in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But my heart is still there.
yeah.
I still hope to find that Hilary or Leo or whatever who comes in with no credits at all because
Yeah.
neither of them
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
a credit to their name. And there is something about that I'm still attracted to, and I still do really like that part. But my job has changed. It 100% has changed. It's
But
not
what a
as joyful.
Great feeling to know like you've met these people who have had a dream and you've helped to fulfill those dreams.
I love
mean,
it.
Yeah.
What a
Dream
what a,
maker.
Yeah. She
I
got such
love
a
that.
sparkle in her eye when
Yeah.
she said that
I
too.
love
what
that.
a gift.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
You're
I think
a part
it's
of a
great.
lot of people's stories.
Yeah, and I want to be.
That's
more.
amazing.
I still say I have 3 more left inside me. I got 3 more. There is a certain manager out there, remain nameless, who told me there are no more movie stars in the world, that they're done.
I don't
And
believe that.
I don't believe
don't
that
believe it
either.
either.
And
I
I
don't
think
believe
I've got
that.
3 more
I don't
coming.
believe that either.
3 more. And I'm not done until I do it because
Yeah.
now I've got to prove this person
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yep.
We almost literally got
Well,
into a
let
fight
him know.
over it.
Wow.
Let us know. We'd love to have them a guest on our
I don't-
podcast.
yeah, I don't
That's
believe
right,
that.
before. Because I don't
There's
believe it
more.
either.
Yeah, no.
There's no freaking way.
No.
There has to be.
And it'll be the next wave, you know,
Of
because
course.
the generation before us,
Yeah.
you know, the Schwarzeneggers,
Yeah.
the Stallones,
Yeah.
these guys are getting
Yeah.
too old to do that kind of
Yes.
stuff now.
Yeah.
They're 78.
Well,
Yeah.
no, now we have Chris Pratt and
Yeah.
You know how I love
Ryan
Jason
Reynolds and
Statham.
well, he's
Yeah,
who knew?
he's great.
Favorite
Mhm.
movie he's ever in? Spy, hands down.
I like Spy too.
I
That
never
was
saw that.
fun.
It's
It was
the
such a
best.
fun movie.
You never saw Spy?
No,
Oh, you got to go
so
watch it.
stupidly
He's
fun.
perfect.
Yeah.
He's an action guy
He's
and
so
he's
fun.
cute
And he
and
makes
he's
fun of
stupid
himself.
and
Yeah.
it's
Stupid.
fantastic.
I gotta see that.
Yeah, you
He's
got to watch it.
great.
It's a great. That's
I'm
a
with
great
you.
action
He's
film.
great.
I love all those like Rush Hour. Give me
Yeah.
give me a good buddy comedy
like that
action
too.
film.
Yeah.
I'm all in.
Yeah,
I just watched Lethal Weapon again because
The
I had the
best.
kids in
Yeah.
Lethal
My mother
Weapon,
loved
Danny
those.
Glover's kids in it.
yeah.
And I watched it, and it's funny how it didn't hold up.
Oh no!
It did
By the
not
way,
hold up.
nothing pre 2005
Did
really
not hold
holds up.
Some do.
Some
Doesn't
do.
E.T. hold up?
Of course.
It
E.T.
does,
holds
but I'm
up.
talking about any of these like slightly pushing the envelope buddy coms. There's a lot of 80s humor. And my kid watches The
I
Simpsons.
mean, the
Goonies, I
original
think, holds
Beverly Hills
up.
Cop was great.
They're amazing,
Yeah.
but I'm saying the times like there are shit that you cannot say.
Yeah.
That
Oh, no,
like
that's true.
that is where where I mean
Lethal
they
Weapon
date.
qualifies.
Like you're
Yeah.
just going,
That,
oh, that
I
was
was
so
like,
not
cringy,
okay.
cringe.
You know, the kids now watch it.
But
and they're
Goonies
like, what
holds
are they-
up. Goonies still holds
Yeah,
up.
and they're
Lost
doing
Boys
a remake.
didn't.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I
hold
never
up.
told you this, but this is an interesting
Uh-oh.
story. I still don't know if it's true or not
What's that?
because I was too young. And now that I'm speaking to a very famous
Oh.
child agent, it's going to let all my weird stories come out. So my mother was friends with somebody who was an executive or like dated somebody after
Huh?
my dad at one of the things who knew me and brought a picture of me into Steven Spielberg when he was casting for E.T.
Yeah.
And my mother said, no, absolutely not. They're like, just have her go in and meet him. Absolutely not. He gave him a picture, whatever. Apparently, like, what was it, a year later?
Okay.
Because I'm a little bit younger than Drew Barrymore, so
Okay.
maybe I was about 5 or 6. Mouth was supposed to have a little sister.
Okay.
Oh.
And my mother got another phone call saying, would she be up for it? My
Yeah.
mom was like, fuck no, I'm still not doing it.
Yeah.
I think it was like a fleeting thought of like having an
could've
annoying,
been.
but like, I don't even know if that was a true thing or
Yeah.
not, but I remember
Could've
hearing
been.
that. I know I could have been the next
Could've
big
But they're
been.
gonna remake it.
I would have done so many drugs and died by the time I was 16 that I would
At
have
least
been
you're
one of those
honest.
terrible,
they're
terrible.
Love
they're
it.
remaking it.
I'm very
Yeah.
excited. Maybe I can come in as like
Yeah.
Court
Hey,
Feldman's
there you go.
long lost
There
sister
you
that
go.
was supposed to be in
Yeah.
the first one. I'm just saying, write me in.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm
Write me
obnoxious
in.
enough.
Don't write me
Yeah.
out yet.
I do love that movie. I'm very excited that they're making
Yeah.
a sequel.
I am too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
it's
am too.
amazing.
That's a
Did you-
great cast.
Yeah,
That
it
was
is
a great cast.
I mean, great.
Yeah.
I heard that they're going to cast Axl Rose as Mama Fratelli.
You are so fun.
There's a meme. I stole that from a meme, you
yeah,
There it is.
guys.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's good. I'll show it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were great too. Robert Davi,
Oh.
Joey Pants.
Oh, Joey Pants.
Oh,
Yeah, he's
I
the
remember
greatest.
him.
Joey Pants.
He used to be out all the time.
Yeah, he was.
He was
he's
out
a
all
the
the
great
time.
guy.
cigar,
Oh,
the
geez.
Grand Havana room. Or
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh,
right,
yeah.
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 I made
Yeah.
money on that.
I
stock.
remember hanging
Yeah.
out with him. He was a funny,
Yeah.
interesting
He was. He's
dude.
such a
he was.
nice,
He always
fun
used to
guy.
wear that
Yeah.
hat backwards.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
page boy. Is that
Yeah.
what's called? Paperboy, page boy,
Paperboy hat,
or whatever
yeah.
they call it.
But really funny guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if he was hitting on me or he liked talking to me.
Yeah.
But he was a really nice
Just so
guy.
nice.
He was
Yeah,
a
he was a
nice guy.
fun,
Joey
outgoing
Pants.
person.
That's the best thing about Hollywood is there are these real characters.
Yeah,
right?
but where is Joey Pants today?
I mean, he did Sopranos was his last big arc that he
But that's
did.
a long time ago already.
Yeah,
was
and
20 years
he's,
ago.
So he's doing a lot of the autograph signings too.
Oh, he
which-
is good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to put him back to work. He's
Yeah.
too good.
He's so good.
Well,
He's
putting it
so
out.
I'm sure
Goonies.
he's working.
The
I'm sure
Goonies.
he's working on stuff. I
Okay,
mean,
good.
I can't imagine that he's not working.
Okay, somebody
Yeah.
needs to get him a job.
But he's a great guy because
Yeah.
so he and Dave Faustino do a lot of the same
Okay, good.
autograph stuff.
Awesome.
And Dave, they're very good friends.
Is he going to one? Is Dave going to one in San Francisco or did one in Oklahoma recently?
I don't know.
Utah, because
He's
Corbin
always
Blue
doing
has
it,
been
though.
doing them, and he loves
Who?
them. Corbin Blue from High School Musical.
Okay, yeah.
He's been a client for
Dave does it all the
25,
time. He does
30.
that, and he does. It's funny, Dave's found a whole another career. He's doing a lot of voiceover stuff.
Of course.
A ton of voiceover stuff. He was on Legend of Korra. I don't know if it's still going or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he does a lot of commercials, and then he does the autograph shows,
Which is great.
and then he does, he does DJing, and people will fly him out to, come DJ. But
That's perfect.
we want, Grandmaster B to DJ our party.
That's so great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Keep the
yeah.
career going. That's
Yeah.
good. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bonnie, you are so fun.
Thank
You
you.
came in with such great energy.
I've
and
never
you're
done this
s-
before.
You should do
She's
more
the
of
best.
these.
Side note, I've never listened to a podcast.
It's okay.
I've booked people on Cole Sprouse. We did a big podcast that did really, really well that, we
Well,
produced. But
send
Yeah.
some of your clients over whenever you feel
Yeah.
like
there
you
you
want
go.
to
I'm
do some
going
Yeah.
to. I'm
PR.
going to think
Yeah,
of great
yeah.
people for you
You
guys.
are one of my favorite people.
You
I
are
mean,
so-
I
but the
love you
feeling
so
is
much.
mutual.
Yeah. You have
We spent
such a
some
great
time at Coachella
she
together.
she has the best energy,
Hey, the
really.
best.
Yeah.
Well,
She
thank
came
you.
in
You
and
guys
I'm
do
like, I
pretty-
like
hey,
her.
You know,
yeah.
You guys do well too.
So she's friendly with my sister, but there's a couple times through the years that I've called
Yeah.
her with like, "Oh, Bonnie, I have this idea. What do you think about this?"
Yeah.
And like, I'll think like, "Yeah," or "Can you give me an answer for this?" And she'll have like 20. Like, "Here's-
love
do
it.
this, do this. Yeah.
I'm glad to know you now.
Well, right back at
yeah,
you.
you're
I'm
lovely.
so excited
I
about
feel
this
like we
for
can
you
talk
guys.
Thanks.
talk
This is
about
awesome.
this. Yeah, we've been doing it
You
a
might
year
be
now.
my first
Yeah.
podcast that not this one.
Yeah.
But I'll listen to the other one.
Okay,
Yeah,
no,
awesome.
it's
My
it's-
assistant's
awesome.
already been listening to
there's
it.
Oh,
a cou-
really?
there's a
Yeah, he sent
couple
me
good
examples.
ones.
I go, I'm not going to listen. I don't want to know.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just let's roll with it.
That's awesome.
It's
Thank
good.
you.
You got to come in blind. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this wonderful, wonderful edition of 90who10. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, see what's coming up next. And until then, peace out.
Peace.
Peace.